7.7 FM. I'm telling you the number now so you can be ready to call in, or you can send us a WhatsApp on 077 488 55055. So we have a full house here. In the studio is only me, but outside there's about 30 or 40 people listening in on that speaker there. So if you can put the speaker on loud so they can all hear outside. So, Barney, I want to welcome one of our esteemed guests in the community, Barney Choudhury. Mr. Barney Choudhury, it's an honor to have you on the Radio Ramadan today, Barney.
Ramadan Mubarak and Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Well,
Thank
Barney,
you for inviting me.
Seems like we are meeting each other once a year only.
I'm telling you about it. I'm telling you about it. It's dreadful because you're enjoying your beautiful life outside of the UK, and we're here suffering the winter of malcontent and discontent with all the stuff that's going on around the world and around the country.
Well, you know me, Barney, wherever I am, I'm busy in the work of empowerment. That is my specialty, and that's what I do. I empower.
It is actually. Yeah. It is. And very few people know the amount of work that you actually do as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a person who really loves the communities in which he lives. And very few people actually get to hear about the works that you do.
Well, you know, Barney, when you embrace every culture, every community, every language, you overcome the 4 dreaded C's that we are all suffering from today in this planet, which is, I don't know if you remember the 4 C's, Barney?
Remind me.
Caste, creed, color, culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And today, we're going to have a good discussion on those points, right? And Barney, a lot of people who are listening in right now and you want a career in journalism, then Barney Choudhury is the person to guide you, mentor you, help you, support you, and also follow his example. I, for one, was very inspired by his story. Now, if you will Google, you'll find out that, Barney, you started your career very early at the age of 16, isn't it?
I did, yeah. I was very, very lucky. I got, I say I was lucky. My father and I had a huge argument and he kicked me out of the house, said. Yeah. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So I always wanted to be a broadcaster. And I went into my local radio station, independent local radio station in Coventry where I lived. It was a place called Mercia Sound. And the receptionist said that her partner at the time had got onto Mercia Sound because he joined Hospital Radio. So I went to join Hospital Radio. And then before I knew it, the guy whose partner it was invited me to Mercia Sound. I started to make tea, coffee, do interviews. And at 17, I joined independent local radio. And then he wrote me a beautiful letter when I went to Brighton Polytechnic to do a degree in chemical engineering and fuel technology. And I joined a local radio station, independent local radio station in Southern Sound, it was called, and it was Port Slade. It was near Brighton, where I was living at the time. And I was mentored. And this is the big thing. If you're mentored, you're going to be very, very lucky. And I was mentored by people who are now national household names. Russ Williams, Jonathan Pearce, who does the football commentary. And Jonathan was really influential. He would send me home with written copy stories, the stories that they read out on air. And he said, I want you to study the way that they wrote and write. And I really want you to understand the language that we use in broadcasting. Russ worked on my voice. My foster dad, Reg Yeoman, worked on my voice. And so for years and years and years, that's all I did. Independent local radio, hospital radio. Then I was lucky enough to be invited to join the BBC as a local radio trainee, and that was 1986. And you might have heard of some of my classmates, Clive Myrie, who does Mastermind and does the 10 o'clock news, Sian Williams, Dr. Sian Williams, as she is now, broadcaster, Carolyn Quinn, who just stepped down from Radio 4, Mark Coles and Charlotte Smith. So those are the caliber of people that I was lucky enough to learn from and work with. And as I say, I've just been blessed all my life in getting to do things every single day that I love doing.
So, Barney, many a story that you have written for the newspapers, you've even been to Parliament on the issues of the forced marriages, on diversity, And you can write many novels today about the subject of diversity and inclusion. So that is the subject that I particularly want to discuss with you, because in Leicester, you will recall 2 years ago, we had riots here.
Yeah.
We had these fractions
Yep.
from the Hindu community, from the Muslim community, and it takes only 5 minutes on WhatsApp, and you can get people from all over the country gather here, and a small problem becomes a medium sized problem. Another 10 minutes, it becomes a big problem. And then this is where the divide and rule policies kick in. So, all these riots that happen between communities are totally, are they politicized? Let me ask you that question.
This is my thesis, this is my hypothesis. Zed, I came to this country as a 4.5-year-old in 1969, and everybody who, whether they were black, brown, Chinese, whatever, we were all considered to be black politically, right? So this is the 1970s and 1980s. And we were really talking about each other and helping one another. You'll remember the riots, the real riots of the 1980s, the 1981, for example. You will know about the fact that the National Front would go around pea bashing. They would grab hold of us and they'd kick us into submission, and we would fight back on a day-to-day basis. It really was a war out there. If you were black or Asian, or if you're of a different skin color, if you're non-white, if you're a person of color, and we were politically black. Then something happened in the 1980s. I think the authorities realized that they could do what they did in India in 1947. They could split us. They could pit us against each other. And in that way, we became weaker. So Pakistanis were pitted against Bangladeshis, who were pitted against Indians, who were pitted against Africans, who were pitted against Caribbeans. And by that division, we became weaker and weaker and weaker, to such an extent now it's about class. If you listen to our Prime Minister, if you listen to the Home Secretary, past and previous, if you listen to the Business Secretary, racism does not exist in the United Kingdom because they've never witnessed it, they've never seen it. And if they did, they would never accept it or deny it. So that's how we're empowering those who are not welcoming of us to become even bolder. I'm a patriot. I believe in the United Kingdom. I'm British. But the majority of the people will accept us because they're fantastic people. But the minority of people who hate us because of the way that we look, because of our culture, because of the way that we behave, no matter what we do, is never going to be enough for them. And it's those that the majority of tolerant white British people really need to help and tackle. Here's the other thing as well, Zed. They talk about us not being able to be British because we're not purebloods. If we trace back history, not one single person in the United Kingdom, whether it be a road sweeper or the King of England, the King of the United Kingdom, is pure blood race. They have some DNA in them, which includes African DNA, which includes Indian DNA, Asian DNA, and also the European DNA. And that's what they don't get, is that if you cut us, we bleed red blood. If you cut us, we are from the same group of people, antecedents, and that's what they don't realize.
And that is the face of humanity. What you're talking about today is we are here to bring all peoples together for the sake of humanity and for our meaning and our reason for being on this planet, Barney, right? We may be different nations, we are from different parts of the world, but we bring together our culture, our food, our willingness to integrate. Now, we got to call out all these people who are people of division, who speak the language of division. On the marches now, we see all different people. And every time I've been to one march and I did not see anything that was extreme. I saw people gelling with each other. I had good discussions with people of all communities. And that was fantastic because that was integration. That is the multipolar Britain
Yeah.
that we have on the table today. But
But there is
when,
a fear, isn't it? But there is a fear, isn't it? That um, to me, I just want to take that moment where Barack Obama stood in front and said, "There is no red state, there are no blue state, there is the United States of America." So let's paraphrase that. There is no black race, there is no white race, there is no brown race. There's only the human race, and that's the starting point for me in terms of our culture.
well,
We have so much in common, and even our differences are beautiful as well. They
now,
really are, because that's what life is about. It allows us to discuss things in a nice way. We don't need to get hot under the collar about it.
now, Barney, you and I at the forefront, along with thousands and millions, are of the same ilk. We believe in integration, we believe in working together, eating together. Whether we are brown, black, matters little. Even
No.
if you look at every brown person you look at, people still look at us as a P. Yeah?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
We don't say the word because it's forbidden.
Yep.
Now, we we looked at like that. And if you are
Yep.
black, then they don't see that you are from Antigua, Jamaica, Guyana, from Ghana, from West Africa, from East Africa. They don't see you like that. They
No.
just see you as black. Now,
Yeah.
this is the sad part, that they successfully divide and then they rule over us. Now, look at the state of every inner city. Every inner city has the same problem: crime,
Yep.
traffic. Now, how are we
Yep.
to blame for the traffic? The roads were designed for medieval England, which was inherited from the Roman Empire. And today we have every single city in the midst of traffic chaos.
Yep.
Now, inner city chaos that we incur, the whole inner city is built with pockets of different communities living in different areas. That in itself is divide and rule. You look at our political party, divide and rule starts at the top. You have a center, you have a left, you have a right, and they're fighting amongst each other. Now, this is what I have seen since I have been in this country since 1972. I just caught a TV interview from Enoch Powell,
Yeah.
The Rivers of Blood,
Yeah. 1968. Yep.
68, and
Yep.
he actually, the Conservative Party, they sacked him, they booted him
Yeah.
out in
Yeah.
1968. And
Yep.
today, a Conservative or a Labour, they get treated differently today. They get mollycoddled with words that, oh, the context was this, the context was that. Recently, we had one minister, I won't mention his name, one MP, where he was talking about shooting a person, or one donor who had said that. And he didn't get condemned. He did not get his donation returned. Once the money is donated, how hard it is to return it, Barney. It's extremely difficult.
But Zed, let's just go back a bit. You mentioned Enoch Powell. The MP that you're talking about is from the East Midlands, and he said some things. His party didn't condemn him, but he left. He left, and he's set up with. He's gone from being Labour to Conservative now to being in the Reform Party. So history has repeated itself.
Now
We
that
don't learn the lessons of history.
that to me is not British culture. When people start talking about British culture, my question to you, Barney, is which decade are you talking about? Are you talking about the colonial British culture from the 1900s? Are you talking about the British culture that slaughtered all the Mau Mau period in Kenya, the Biafra in Nigeria, the 10 million that was slaughtered in, which area was that? In Congo? Right? Are you talking about the British culture that created indentured slaves, which my grandfather was part of that? So, which
all of the above, because we don't learn the lessons of history.
Yeah, that's why if we don't learn of yesterday's wrongs and we continue to do them today, how are we going to go forward tomorrow? So we, all good people of this planet, of this UK, United Kingdom, that we have worked so hard to build our businesses, our homes, we need to come all together, all of us, not as white people, black people, brown people. We all have to come together, Barney. with exactly everything you've mentioned here today. And we have to keep doing the Mandelson rule. Barney, are you familiar with that one?
No, tell me about it.
Good old Mandy. He was Tony Blair's team member.
Yep.
And he used to say that if you want to get your view across, you got to keep repeating yourself again, again, and again. And when you finish that, you got to start again. So,
I think he's right.
yeah,
I really think he's right. And I also think that we've got to do something else. And it's something that um, I believe in more and more. I think we've got to be kind to one another. If we're
well,
not kind to one another, it's okay to disagree. It's okay that you're the left and I'm the right, or I'm the left and you're the right. It's okay that I speak English and you speak Urdu or Pashtun or whatever it is,
mm,
because at the end of the day, we can still communicate with one another. We can still help one another. If you're hungry, let me give you some food. If you have no shelter, let me find you somewhere where you can have that shelter. And if you don't have any clothing, let me give you the clothes off my back, because that's the way that the Britain I know. I'll tell you a little story, Zed. I was 7 years old. I woke up alone in my house and I locked myself out. And it was a white neighbour who spotted me, and she gave me her cardigan, and so that I didn't, so I could wait outside. Although I was frozen, I could wait until my sister arrived home, so I could get back into the house. That's the Britain that I remember, of how people helped one another, and I don't see that now. I see politicians who say that being homeless is a lifestyle choice. I don't believe that. And I don't think the politician believes that. But it's cheap political scoring to say that I'm harder than you are, I'm more rabid than you are, and I'm going to say things until I push it to such a point that you think that I'm the person that's fit enough to lead you. And it's sensible people like us who say nothing that allow that to continue and don't call them out. And I think that's the problem we've got, is that we are so uh, we don't take it upon ourselves to say enough is enough. And that's because we are too busy, quite rightly, trying to live our lives as well in a cost of living crisis, in a place where you're trying to find work, where you're trying to find shelter, where you're trying to find business, where the energy prices have gone up and the bank charges have gone up, and the bank inflation may be going down, but it was 11% at one point, and we're no better off for it. But there is this spin, because we're in election year, where people want to trick us into thinking that they have the solutions when they really don't.
they don't have the solutions. They always, forever have been managing, managing, managing. They don't be creating a permanent long term solution. We have been managing racism for the last 50 years, Barney. Now, going forward, in the community across England, we have thinkers, we have intellectuals. I'm putting a call out to all of you with the help of Barney, who's the editor at the Eastern Eye, that let us all make a difference. We all come together, even if we gather 10 going on to 100, it's our responsibility to reach out to those in the community who are not as fortunate as us, to reach out to them to create what we want is integration, not segregation, everyone to come together. Inclusion, that's what it's all about. Now,
But when the government says, when you've got the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and look, my definition of politicians is taken from a film that I saw many, many years ago called The Hunt from Red October. One of the characters is a senator, and he's played beautifully by the late Richard Jordan. The Jack Ryan character was played by Alec Baldwin, and the senator turned around to Jack Ryan and he said, "Son, I'm a politician, which means that when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing lollipops. And I put myself on the line, and I always sit on the fence, and I always take the easy way out." That's the definition of a politician. So I'm not criticizing the Conservatives, Labour, Liberal Democrats. I think they're politicians and they're sewn from the same cloth. But when you get politicians who say that diversity and inclusivity isn't important and it's a con, I worry. I really, really worry. And when that person happens to be a black politician, I worry even more because what they are undoing is 50 years, 40, 50 years of where we are right now.
You know,
Am I
Barney,
saying, am I
Asian.
saying that all diversity and inclusivity policies are right? I'm not. What I'm saying is that we still need it. We still need diversity policies and inclusivity policies so that this world doesn't go backwards.
Of course, Barney, you know what saddens me again? Every day I see on my WhatsApp children blown up, limbs gone, blood pouring out from faces. And I'm like shedding a tear for that, Barney. And I'm saying to myself, why? What am I doing? Why can I not do something for these children? Yet our politicians, our councillors, our Labour MPs, Conservative MPs, Lib Dem MPs, all the MPs that you and I are aware of, 650 of them, what are they doing? What are they doing about this? How are they sleeping at night? Now, which brings me on to the question we tackled earlier with the Judge Nicholas Cook, that if on that boat coming on the river across the channel, there were white refugees or asylum seekers, would they be on the plane to Rwanda? That our good member of parliament, Suella Braverman, she's having a dream that she wants to wake up and see a plane flying over to Rwanda. Barney, thank God that the rest of England is not having those kind of dreams.
Well, here's my thought on the Rwanda thing. I just, you don't traipse thousands of miles and put yourself at risk and die from drowning because you're an economic migrant. Majority of the people who are on these boats are fleeing war. We opened our doors to Ukrainians, and quite rightly so. The Afghanistan people fought against the Taliban, and their lives are put in danger, and yet we are not doing that. We know that there's a civil war in Syria, and we're not helping there much either. And you have to question why that is. And there's only one difference between Ukrainians and Afghans and Syrians. One happens to be white, the other happens to be non-white. So it raises the question, is it because I's black? I can't see any other way around it.
So
I really,
in the Rwanda policy, there is an element of racial discrimination. Now that is a topic for another day, but I want to bring to attention that we Asian people, black people, we have to break glass ceilings to reach at the top of our ladder in industry, in work environment, in the NHS, and everywhere. Now, those of us who have made it into political sphere in the cabinet, what happens to these people? When I look at the list, Priti Patel, Swala Braverman, Rishi Sunak, what happens to these people when they go to the top there? Why are they more racist than the white politicians? Or are they just used as a front? Because it was in colonial times, the method of rule was put the Asians at the front or the black people at the front to carry out the atrocities. So always I wonder about that, Barney. What is your comment on
oh,
that?
look, I've written about it. I've tweeted, I've posted social things about it. I think it's because politically they are so scared. Once you taste power, you don't want to let it go. And you will say anything and do anything to have that power and to have that decision making. What they don't realize is that they're not really in charge. They are not the leaders that we wanted. And also the other side, and you know this through bitter experience, Ed, which is this. Once a person of color gets into a prominent position, they're afraid that they're going to be judged as that person, that they're only going to do things for brown and black people. Well, I don't think that's true. I don't think we go around thinking, I'm going to do my brown and black mates the biggest favor. Uh, and that's what they're worried about. They're worried about being judged as a black person, and suddenly they've forgotten the struggles of their parents and their grandparents, of their uncles, nephews, nieces, when in trying to get to where they're trying to get to, and they pull the ladder up behind them instead of offering a hand and to pull them up. And what they forget to realize is that once they're inside there, they can be the virus that changes for the better. They can be the vaccination that gets rid of racism instead of contributing to it.
Well, of
And
course,
it disappoints me. And it disappoints me. Rishi Sunak disappoints me. Priti Patel disappoints me. Suella Braverman disappoints me. The only person that hasn't disappointed me is Sajid Javid when he said that the P word is not banter, racism is not banter. And he had the bottle to do that when he was the Chancellor, when he was the Home Secretary, when he was the Health Secretary. He has never shied behind that. And politicians such as Saida Varsi have taken on her party and tried to make it better. But when you've got people of colour inside a party not going behind a full square, it's a classic colonial divide and rule.
of course, I think, Barney, there has to be attention to this in more great detail. Now, you are in a very strong, powerful position, and I'm sure that the people behind you, they will disagree with your outspoken views, your honest views, or some will agree with you. But collectively, we can all come together from all different races and be a collective voice put forward. A voice that consists of white people, yellow people, brown people, black people, all of us from all faiths and all communities, right?
And of none. And of none.
Yeah, all communities. And we have to do this, Barney, ourselves. We cannot wait. I can't wait another 50 years, Barney. I won't be here.
Zed, I'm very, very lucky. I'm the editor at large for Eastern Eye. My editor, executive editor, Sailor Solanki, and his brother Kalpesh Solanki, who run between them the Asian Media Group, are absolutely wonderful because they accept diverse views. We don't always agree on everything, but they know that that's the part of democracy. Give me that argument, give me that choice, and they will allow me to write about it. So a couple of weeks ago, at the beginning of the month, I was lucky enough to be invited to the Houses of Commons to receive an award for my journalism. And they asked me to make a speech, and I wasn't ready for that. And I just realized that I had a platform. I had a platform to take on the Prime Minister and all of his cabinet and all of the MPs who deny and ghost and gaslight survivors of racism. And I asked them, why do you do it? Why do you pull the ladder up behind them instead of offering the hand? Why is it that you've forgotten what your parents and your grandparents did and what your children should be doing? And I'm not anybody. Honestly, I'm not anybody. I'm all I am is a journalist. All I am is I hold power to account and I tell unpalatable truths. But there's enough of us in this country. 99.9% of the country is behind you and me in believing that we can and should have a harmonious country. It's only the small minority who create problems for us.
Of course.
And we give them succor because we allow them to get away with it.
So, Barney, I'm thinking now years ahead for my grandchildren, right? I would not want them to see the next 50 years as the 50 years I have seen in terms of community engagement in our political landscape. We have to make a difference collectively. Now, I'm going to propose to you live on radio, Ramadan, that we come together with the biggest Asian media group in England, the Eastern Eye and its affiliates, and we step up. We all make a difference and we make sure that our team consists of all communities, all caste, color, creeds, all cultures. And we have to show them the way. I don't think that our politicians are equipped to carry this task out, right? And our agenda is simple: integration, not segregation, inclusion, not division, and we reduce and we applaud many good things along the way.
Can you imagine if we had all the media groups, all the radio stations? Um, I'm not talking about the BBC. I'm not talking about the BBC because they couldn't do it, but all the community radio stations around the country. If we had one day to make that difference for one day only, and if we had the coverage on the BBC, on ITV, on Sky, and the newspapers as well. Just one day, just one day. If we brought people together and had that conference, a day-long conference, not just talking, where the we had to provide solutions. So I don't want anecdotes. I don't want that, and I think anecdotes and stories are really important. What I want are solutions. What is it that we're trying to do? What does success look like? And let's work backwards to create that so that my grandchildren, your grandchildren, if we're lucky to have grandchildren in years to come, do not have to face what I faced, which is every single day as I was growing up, having to fight a bunch of white people, having to run away, having to confront, having to be very careful into which areas I go. If we could find that out, what does success look like, and then work backwards? Yeah, I,
Well,
I, I defy anybody not to join us.
of course, Bonnie, let's do this. You and I will pick up after the program and make this happen. And we'll be led by you. And you're a good captain. And you talked about grandchildren. And I'm going to share with you my 2-year-old, 2.4 years old is grandchild. I'm not wasting time with Baba Black Sheep. And I'm not wasting time with Old MacDonald Had a Farm. I'm going straight to teaching him how to spell the word psychology,
Wow,
right?
wow.
Because if I can teach him psychology at that age, I'm going to make him a very integrated human being and work on him. So this is where I'm starting. I'm embracing the digital generation, digitizing. And this is what it's all about, Barney. We really have to start our children at a very young age, and we have to go forward, not backwards, Barney.
Do you know what this country doesn't realize? And I'm just thinking about it as you're talking about it. The biggest minority group will be the mixed race because that's what's happening. There is black people are marrying white people, who are marrying Asian people, who are marrying Chinese people, who are marrying Eastern Asian people, and those barriers are coming down. And within 50 years, I guarantee that the majority, 50 to 75 years, the majority of Britons won't be white people. They won't be South Asian people. They won't be black people. They'll be mixed race, mixed religious people. And that's the reality of it all.
Well, of course, in the parliament last week, one of the ministers, one of the cabinet ministers, I'm not sure he was an MP, one of the MPs at the backbench, he stood up very proudly, like he was a descendant of Enoch Powell. He very proudly said that if they reach 10%, there will be civil war in England. He was referring to the Muslim community.
Yeah.
And this is the fear-mongering. Fear is a tool of rule. I've always said that, and I maintain that if they put enough fear into people, then those people will walk the way they want them to walk. And this is irresponsible comment, Barney, in Parliament.
Well, not only is it irresponsible comment, but they're goading vulnerable and easily angered people. And that's all they want. They want us to react. That's all they want us to do. They want us to react and prove them right. And my message to anybody is don't react. Why react to it? There are two things that my foster dad taught me. Don't engage with people who are drunk, and don't engage with people who are stupid. And I don't know whether the MP was drunk, whether he was stupid. I really don't.
Maybe a combination of both.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. all I'm saying is that sometimes let it go. They're trying to goad you. You know as well as I do that use of the P word, use of the N word is meant to goad us. There was this thing on social media. I don't know whether you caught it, Zed, of a young black lad in the north of England was confronted by a group of white people, and he ordered him, the black person, to lick his boots, to lick his shoes. The poor black guy didn't have a choice but to do that, but he held his dignity. He was more, he had more dignity than his attackers. And it's I saw the video. I've been trying to get the video, and I finally saw it today. And we should be saying to the black lad's parents, well done for raising a black lad who knew how to deal with himself. Now let's leave it to the police to deal with his perpetrators, because a group of people have been arrested as a result of that hate crime, and it is hate crime. And when people say that racism doesn't exist anymore in the United Kingdom, well, let me tell you, well, talk to the 14-year-old kid, the black kid who was set upon by a group of white people. Tell him that racism doesn't exist.
And this is only one story of many and many and many and many. And we all have to call them out. We have to call them out, right? Now it's election year.
I'm sorry, Zed. And we also have to remember and keep on telling ourselves that the majority of Britons, white Britons, are fantastic people.
No doubt about it. We've
We've got to keep
always
on saying
said it's the majority, and I will always say that our problems are created top down.
Yep.
Top down, right?
Yep.
Our judiciary is scared. Their solicitors, they put one tweet out, they get a letter immediately that they're going to be struck off.
Yep.
Our pharmacist, he's scared because the
Yep.
Pharmaceutical bodies are striking them out. So we
Yep.
are here.
We know they're disproportionately reported. We know they're disproportionately disciplined. We know that.
Yeah, now we are a very, very minute 1 month a year radio station, and we get calls of that nature that this is what's happened to me. Can you speak about it? And I'm like thinking, where are the big stations? Where
Yep.
are the national stations? Why are they not talking about this? Why are they not picking up on this, right? Because they are all afraid. Everybody is in fear to secure their job. They don't want to say. They feel it, they talk about it at home, but they will not come and say. They are conformist. They conform. So the solicitor is unhappy. On Sunday, listen in, Barney, there is a pharmacist who's going to come. He's going to tell his story. And you know the...
Can I proffer a hypothesis? Here's my hypothesis about the mainstream media. If you look at the mainstream media, all the senior leaders who make the real decisions are white, and they're probably all men. And if you are of color, there's no critical mass to have support behind you. So you've heard the phrase whiter than white. People of color in our mainstream media keep their mouths shut and are complicit.
Of course, Barney, I'm going to cut you a little short now because the program's nearly coming to an end. We got 5 minutes, and let's talk about some positive things now, Barney.
Yep.
During this month of Ramadan, each year at Radio Ramadan, we are always looking for talent. We are looking for those young people of tomorrow, right? So this year, we have found 3 wonderful persons, and I'm going to send you a recording of one of them, and you tell me if that is a BBC newsreader or not. Right? That is what makes me happy, Barney, when we discover these young people and we develop talent.
Absolutely.
And I'm very proud to share that with you, Barney. When one of our producers, he said, Zed, have you listened to the news? I said, no, what's that all about then? He said, look, listen to the news. And I honestly thought it was a BBC or a ITV or a Channel 4 newscaster.
Brilliant.
And then he told me, no. This is our discovery for this year. Now, Barney, There is talent out there. We
Yeah.
just have to reach out, keep talking
So,
about this.
here's my thought on that. We have so many mentoring schemes, diversity schemes, uh, inclusivity schemes, so many uh, where we reinvent the circle over and over again. The other thing that we need to do, as well as develop and mentor, is champion. If we do not champion, that's where we fail down. Let me tell you about PIE, PIE. P for performance, I for impression, E for exposure. If you perform 100% of the time, 100%, it only accounts for 10% of your success. If you create a brilliant impression and make yourself indispensable, and you still perform 100%, 100% of the time, that only accounts for 30% of your success. If you have a champion who says that, you know what, Zed is the best thing since sliced bread, we need him on this project, and he performs 100%, 100% of the time, and is fantastically when it comes to being a nice chap, that accounts for 60% of your success. It's about who you know, and it's about your ability to impress them, and it's about performing that 100%, 100% of the time. You cannot underestimate the value of exposure. And that's where we're going wrong in this country. We don't get it. We don't play the rules of the game. And for you to, so I tell you a little story. I had a student of mine whom I recognized from day one was a leader, whom I recognized was going to be fantastic. I did more than mentor him. I championed him. So when I sat in front of a TV editor and they needed a freelancer, I said, this is the person you want to go for. Well, let me tell you something, Zed. That person has become the head of an ITV newsroom in a region in this country.
Is he,
Happened to him earlier this month.
excuse me for interrupting, but is he not a young lad from Leicester?
He is.
Well, there you are. You see, Barney, another time we're going to meet after Ramadan. I'm going to share with you many, many successes in Leicester. We're going to gather them all in one room and we're going to develop them further to join our vision of
Count me in.
integration.
Count me in.
And we'll have a great evening, right?
Count me in. Seriously, count me in.
And I'm
Whatever I
gonna
can do to help.
I'm going to pull all these young people together. And Barney, you know, there's some wonderful things happening here in Leicester, which I want you.
There are.
When you visit, we want to get Asian media, Eastern Eye here to show them what an asset-driven city it is, and share the successes. The positivity has to be told to all the England. Everybody in England should know about it, right? Everybody should share and follow the example. Be inspired by the good things that happen in this city. We have been tainted with the incident that happened, which we have to recover from now. After 50 years, we had an incident like that. And there's more to it than just two communities getting at each other. There's a lot of behind-the-scene reasons, the instigators, the politics behind it. There's a lot more to it than Barney. And we'll overcome that, inshallah. And we leave you, Barney, with this good message of Ramadan, of tolerance, of patience, of lots of kindness. And the city has performed every year in giving charity throughout the month for local and for international causes. And this year is going to continue doing that.
Zed, can I thank you for letting me come on to Radio Ramzan and thank you for your positive message. And may I wish all your listeners a happy Ramadan and also Eid Mubarak when it comes.
Thank you very much, Barney. It was great to have you here. I look forward to meeting you when you come back from your holidays and meet you in Leicester with a good invite for you and your team over there at Eastern
Thank you very much. You take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Now, all of you listening in, we shall continue the programs on Saturday and on Sunday. And Sunday, I'll be back on at 11 a.m.